Let me ask you a question. Could you survive on what people ate nearly a century ago? During the Great Depression of the 1930 s, food was just not about choice. It was about survival. With unemployment high and money scarce, families across America turned to simple, affordable meals, often made with just 3 ingredients. And today, we're going back in time to discover what they ate for their survival and how they survived the Depression era, not to romanticize hardship, but to understand it. We will take a look at 3 real Depression-era meals made with just 3 basic ingredients and ask a hard question: could you live on this today? Let's begin. The Great Depression was a full-blown collapse of daily life. It began in 1929 when the stock market crashed, triggering a chain reaction that devastated economies worldwide. However, for ordinary people, the numbers meant little. What mattered was the fallout. 25% of Americans were unemployed. Banks failed. Homes were lost. Soup lines stretched for blocks. Entire families were uprooted and forced to travel by train or on foot, looking for work or just a meal. In rural areas, the Dust Bowl exacerbated the problem. Crops died, livestock starved, and once fertile land turned to dust. For most families, food became the center of every struggle. Buying meat or fresh produce became a rare luxury. Eggs and milk were scarce. Even basic ingredients like flour or sugar were rationed or simply unaffordable. People did what they had to do. They stretched meals with water. They reused bacon grease. They foraged, bartered, and rationed with military precision. Cookbooks and newspapers began circulating recipes specifically designed for hard times, as well as meals that could feed 5 for the cost of feeding 1. The 3-ingredient meals we are about to explore were not any trends. They were lifelines. And behind every one of them is a story of survival, resilience, and human will. Meal number 1, potato pancakes. The ingredients it had were potatoes, flour, and lard. Potato pancakes was a staple for many families because potatoes were cheap, filling, and easy to store. Here is how they made it. They grate a few raw potatoes, mix in some flour, and fry it all in lard until it was crisp and golden. That's it. No spices, no butter, no dipping sauces. It was not meant to be delicious. It was meant to keep your stomach from growling. Lard was cheaper than butter and lasted longer without refrigeration. It gave families the calories families needed to work long hours, especially when work was scarce. And every ounce of energy counted. Potato pancakes were adaptable. You could stretch them with water if the ingredients ran low. They could feed a whole family for just a few cents. Would it be enough today? For a meal? Maybe. For a lifestyle? It is hard to imagine thriving on just this, day after day. Meal number 2, cornmeal mush. This was made up of cornmeal, water, and salt. This meal was as plain as it sounds. Boil water. Stir in cornmeal slowly. Add a pinch of salt if you have it. The result? A thick, gritty porridge that could be eaten hot or poured into a pan to set, then sliced and fried the next day. It was a favorite among both urban and rural communities, not because it tasted good, but because it filled you up. Cornmeal was inexpensive and readily available, especially in the South. It could stretch across multiple meals and did not need refrigeration. Many families had this for breakfast and dinner every day. It was versatile, and you could dress it up with syrup or fat if you were lucky, but most often it was plain. Would it be enough today? Nutritionally, it is low in protein, low in fat, and contains virtually no vitamins. But in hard times, calories mattered more than nutrients. Eating this every day now would be hard, not just physically, but mentally. The monotony alone would wear you down. Meal number 3, dandelion salad. This salad usually included dandelion greens, vinegar, and bacon grease if available. Yes, dandelions. The weeds are growing in your backyard. During the Depression, people foraged for food wherever they could. Dandelion greens were free, fresh, and full of vitamins. Families would go outside, pick what they could find, and toss it with a splash of vinegar. If they had bacon grease saved from previous meals, they would warm it and pour it over for flavor. This meal was not just about saving money, it was for survival, where the person would not compromise on nutritional value as well as having their stomachs fed. Dandelion greens were one of the few fresh things many families could access, and they offered iron, calcium, and vitamins A and C. But if we think in today's time and date, would they be enough? On its own, no. But as part of a larger survival strategy, it reflects something powerful: ingenuity. Making the most of what you have, even if it grows between cracks in the sidewalk. When we talk about food from the Depression era, we often focus on what was on the plate. But what about the mental and emotional experience of eating during that time? Today, meals are often about pleasure, culture, and then identity. But back then, food was purely functional. People were not asking, "Is this healthy?" or "Do I feel full?" They were asking, "Will my kids stop crying after this? Can we make these last 3 more days? Is this all we get this week?" Eating was an act of survival, not a source of enjoyment. And the psychological toll was immense. Children learned to eat less without complaining. Parents skipped meals so their kids could eat. People ate in silence. Guilt, shame, and desperation often sat at the table alongside the food. This scarcity mindset shaped how an entire generation thought about waste, money, and food for the rest of their lives. Even decades later, many Depression survivors continued to hoard pantry items or reuse tinfoil, small habits that began when nothing could be wasted. These meals were more than just simple. They were survival mechanisms under extraordinary pressure, and that kind of hunger stays with a person forever. Creative hacks people used to stretch meals. When ingredients were limited, people got incredibly creative to stretch meals beyond their original purpose. Here are some real Depression-era hacks that helped families get through the week. Stale bread revival. Instead of tossing it, stale bread was soaked in milk or water and fried like French toast without eggs or sugar. Bean water broth. Leftover water from boiling beans was saved as broth to flavor rice, potatoes, or porridge. It was called pot liquor and was, surprisingly, nutritious. Applesauce cake. Sugar and eggs were expensive, so applesauce was used to sweeten and bind cakes. It gave just enough moisture and flavor to make desserts possible. Meat stretchers. When meat was available, it was mixed with breadcrumbs, oats, or mashed beans to make it go further. What we now call meatloaf was once a financial strategy. Mock recipes. Families made mock versions of foods they could not afford, like mock apple pie made from Ritz crackers, or mock chicken legs made from seasoned rice and scraps. These hacks were passed down through generations, not as gourmet tricks, but as survival intelligence. This era also revealed something remarkable. Even in the face of extreme limitations, people did not stop trying to make meals a little better, a little warmer, a little more human. These meals were not cooked for flavor, they were cooked for survival. They tell a story not just of poverty, but of resilience, creativity, and strength. Today, we have endless options for food delivery, grocery aisles packed with colorful brands, and superfoods from around the world. But back then, the rules were simple. Use what you have. Waste nothing. Feed everyone. Could you live on these meals today? Physically, you could, for a while. But emotionally, socially, it would be a different kind of challenge. These Depression-era recipes teach us something important, not just about food, but about how strong people can be when times get tough. And maybe that's worth remembering. If you found this interesting, look into history and consider subscribing for more content that explores the stories behind everyday things. Would you try one of these meals? Have your grandparents ever mentioned foods like this? Drop a comment below and I would love to hear your thoughts. If you'd like to explore more survival-era recipes or try cooking these yourself, please let me know. Until next time, remember, every meal tells a story.